Hi everyone, Paul from International Scale Modeller. Welcome to part 13 of our techniques guide. This is what I know as it stands now. We're starting the spray booth today because we're going to start work. This as stands now. After you saw it last time, she was decaled. I've then applied another coat of Johnson's Clear. So as you can see, she's got a fairly satiny semi-gloss finish to her. She's looking well after all the decals have gone down. So I'm more than happy with that. Not a problem at all. So what we're going to do today, depending on how much time I've got, I plan on getting some weathering done, and I've already weathered the paintwork a little bit with the mottling and fading and what have you, so we've got a bit of pre-weathering done there already. All we're going to do, I'm not going to heavily weather it because it's not a full-on weathered build, it's just basic techniques, is we're going to apply a wash to it, so it'll be Ultimate Modelling Products Dark Dirt Wash, and that'll accentuate all the panel lines and make those stand out and pop a little bit. We're going to again add a little bit of gun staining, nothing too dramatic, just a very light hint top and bottom of gun staining, and we're going to add a little bit of exhaust staining as well, and that's it really. So nothing too in depth, but just enough to give a little bit of a worn look to the aircraft. I don't like my aircraft battered really with weather effects. Don't mind the paintwork looking faded and that, but that's how we'll do it. Now exhaust stains, and the gun stains we're going to use in Mr. Hobby Flat Black. It'll be quite thin, sprayed at quite a low pressure. The gun stains will just be, sprayed backwards as if the soot and what have you has been pushed back through wind resistance. Same underneath, and the exhaust staining. Now, I've looked at pictures online, and I've seen exhaust staining that's halfway up the fuselage and all the way down to the back end of the aircraft. And again, I've seen just little spots at the front of it. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a faint hint, about a centimetre back, centimetre and a half back from the exhaust. That's it, nothing too dramatic like I say. And then with the exhausts, I've got them both super glued to cocktail sticks. I just flatten off the end of the cocktail stick and super glue underneath. Once you're done, you twist it and off they pop, and they leave nothing behind whatsoever. These are going to be sprayed in Mr. Hobby Mr. Metal Colour Buffable. We're going to use a dark iron colour, and I'll show you how they spray on. We'll let them dry and then we'll buff them off later over on the desk. So first of all, you need to make sure you give it a good shake. It's ultra thin paint. It doesn't need priming at all. So you spray directly onto your bare plastic. Doesn't need thinning, and I would recommend the use of one of these, a pipette. I have trouble saying that word for some reason, to decant this into your airbrush. So make sure, because if you tip that out the side, it's going to spill everywhere. Trust me, I've done it. So use pipette. You don't need a huge amount. First of all, you can literally play it by ear. I'm going to put my spray booth on because, like I say, this stuff truly reeks. Put that to one side. Comes through really easy. Like I say, it's ultra thin paint, as you see. I haven't got a massive amount in there at all, and it's very thin coats. She's blocking my airbrush a little bit for some reason. Spraying this at 25 psi. Just going all the way around to get a nice even coat. And you've got everywhere covered. So a little bit of a blockage there, so I've got the other one because the other one's actually fell off the cocktail stick now. So I don't know why I had a blockage. So like I say, nice thin coats, just build it up slowly. It's not the smoothest of paint to spray at all, especially if it's blocking the airbrush like this is doing. Ideally need to stop and clean the airbrush, but I can persevere to get through it. There we go, that's it. So as a wall paint, just nice light thin coats till you build it up. Once you've got your base layer down, you can then come a little bit thicker. So there we go, a little bit of a calamity there. We had a blockage on the airbrush, which cleared itself right at the end, and you know, right just as the paint colour cup empties. Yay, thanks for that. So there we go, there's the one that stayed on the cocktail stick. It's perfectly painted. I'll show this close up over on the bench when we go over there, because the way it dries really, really matte and it looks awful. You think, oh my god, what have I done? But that's the way it's supposed to dry. As you can see, I'm covered in it. So I need to get this off before I pick up the aircraft. So we need to switch airbrushes. We go to the other Infinity. I'm just going to very quickly clean my hands as well. I don't want this. The other problem with Mr. Hobby Buffable is if you've got it on your fingers or your hands, it will go everywhere, everything you pick up and touch. So make sure to get it off your fingers. I'm going to try and use our cleaner, which works perfectly. Never actually tried our cleaner on cellulose paint. We'll have to see if it works, because it's just taken off my finger really well. Right, okay, so as I say, there's the MB109. It's been clear coated in preparation for this. So we've got Mr. Hobby Flat Black, which is what we're going to use. So I'm going to put that out of the way. I'm not going to tempt fate by spilling paint all over it. Tight bottle lid, there we go. So we're going to do a fairly thin mixture. We're not going to do it ultra thick. Like I said, I've got my Infinity. Put quite a bit in there. We don't really need that much, but it doesn't really matter. Try and keep these paint lids clean because it does help. I'm going to pass saving now quite a lot. You can keep your workspace nice and clean. And as you can see, we're just at the neck of the harder. I'm just going to move my camera a little bit. See if we can get a bit better light. So if you can see in there, you'll see just at the neck. So we're going to add quite a bit of thinner. So probably about, I don't know, half a mil of paint to about a mil of thinner. So it's a fairly good thin mixture. Give it a good mix up, and we'll give it a quick backflow to make sure we are thoroughly mixed, and we should be able to get nice thin lines. That noise tells me it needs thinning a little bit more. Good thing about Mr. Hobby, it lets you know, same as Tamiya does in a way, but I think that Mr. Hobby does it more. You can tell by the audible noise, it's not quite thin enough. And we're going to put the lid on as well, so we don't tempt fate. So if you've been picking up paint, make sure your hands are clean, because obviously you're at the finishing stage of the aircraft now, so the last thing you want to be doing is putting paint everywhere. And all we're going to do, I'm just going to move you, there we go. All we're going to do is add a light gun stain, just, let me do it on the paper so you can see. We're just going to add a thin trail of smoke on its way back from there. Just like that. So as you can see, just a small amount. Just going to take out a shot there. Just a small amount. Nothing too OTT. It's a little bit harder for me over in the spray, but I haven't got my big monitor to look at for reference. So I have to look at the screen on the actual camera, and it's a lot smaller. So again, before you commit to the aircraft, try it on the paper next to it before you go over. And again, you just add in some pressure with a bit of soot. You don't want them identical because they wouldn't be in real life, so I'm happy with that. And then underneath, same again, just be aware of your antenna, which is there, but she's fine. Again, pull it around on the paper underneath before you commit to the aircraft. I'll try and get you guys in shot, it helps, doesn't it? There we go. Excuse the compressor as well. Now if you make a mistake, and I've just done that, and this is a perfect opportunity, because somebody said about me making mistakes and showing them, watching the monitor rather than watching what I'm doing, I've got a little bit of overspray just where I don't want it. So although I use Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner for everything, for jobs like this you can't beat Vallejo's airbrush cleaner. I'll show you the bottle in a minute, because I think it's a crap airbrush cleaner, I'm going to be honest. But for removing paint, like you made a very slight mistake, it's excellent. So all you need to do is just touch it lightly. I like to wet it, then spin it round. You need to wet it again, but don't press too hard because you'll go through to the paint underneath. All I'm trying to do is remove that last little bit of paint I put on, which hopefully I can do without damaging the paint underneath. So I've still got paint in, I'm just going to dry it just through there, and there we go. The only remnant of paint there now, hard for you to see, is literally in the panel line, which is going to be filled with a wash in a minute anyway. So there you go. I had a little bit of overspray because I wasn't quite concentrating. Rather than having a nice streak of paint, I had a blob. So I like to use this, and this is the only bottle this I've got, because it's not a great airbrush cleaner in my opinion. It's not very effective, but it's effective enough just to lift the paint off without damaging underneath. And obviously because we've got our clear coat, we haven't damaged underneath. That looks like this paint there. I can't really see that on my camera. If I wanted to, I could anyway. I could get rid of it totally, but we're going to put the gun stain there so it'll cover it nicely anyway. So now that you've left your airbrush for a couple of minutes, make sure you pull your paint through all the way back on the lever, and then check that you're getting your nice faint line again. And I'm going to look at what I'm doing rather than the camera. And there we go, that'll do me. Maybe a little streak at the back. A bit of a blockage on that. I don't know if we're getting blockages today. Press that. There we go. That's perfect. That'll do me. So as you've seen, there we go, we rectified that mistake on this wing. We're very, very short gun stroke. I'm not going to do a massively long one, and they are both different lengths, they are different, you know, they are irregular. And we've got a light one on the wing as well, so it just gives the impression that the wing cannons have been used. You can do the same on the front here if you want as well, to add a bit of interest to these, and I think we will as well while we're here. So before you commit to coming in, always pull the paint through on the airbrush. And make sure you're getting your nice tight thin lines. So push this back so you guys just see. This is really tricky to do and get it on camera as well. Here we go. So obviously I need to paint those as well. The actual cannons and the cowling need paint, but you can see we've added a light soot effect out the front of there, and obviously when we get a wash, that'll get a bit of a wash in there as well. Beauty of the wash being water based and clay based, you can just take it off where you want it. But there we go, there's the wing mounted cannons. Now the side, I'm going to prop it up using my Tamiya paint stand, which has just decided to fall to bits, but by the by, you can get it to rest. There we go, as long as you guys can see, which you can kind of. We're going to do exactly the same with exhaust staining. Now this is where it's important to have the lid on the colour cup and make sure the stand doesn't spin round like it's got a habit of doing. And what we want to do is just build up a nice thin, not like that, There we go. Now what I've done, it starts out, if I turn it over so you can see, it starts off thicker at the front and it's eased off at the back like it would naturally. So that's that done. Very easy to overdo this, and this is what I'm really worried about doing because I've got a terrible habit of overdoing weathering. Armour I like really heavily weathered, and I seem to carry it across into aircraft, and I do not like heavily weathered aircraft. So it's easier to add more, it's harder to take it off. So stop before you think that's enough, because by the time you think that, it's normally too late. So there we go. Same again on this side. You're best off doing a line first, a nice streak, then build it up at the front. Like so, and that will do me. That is it, roughly the same as the other side. It's near enough, and I'm happy with that. So there we go. So a little bit of wing weathering underneath and on top, and a little bit of exhaust staining. I think maybe this one could do with just being a little bit, see there you go, this really think now, that could do with being a little thicker. And you go and muck it up, but I can see yeah, that's better. That's perfect. That'll do me lovely. So there we go. I'm going to clean the airbrush and we'll go to the workbench, we'll put a wash on, and I'll show you all the other components ready to go on. Okay, so we're back on the workbench. What I've got here, we've got all the various components painted up. I've done these off camera. I've got the propeller, so that's been done in an RLM, if I remember right, it's like 70, it's a dark green. The inner prop workings were painted in an aluminium colour, and the prop was painted in a dark grey, black colour. It's not exactly black, but it's not exactly grey, so it's like a real dark grey colour. Landing gear's been painted RLM 02. And the outside RLM 65, if I remember right, so they're ready to go for a bit of a wash. And the landing gear front wheels have been painted in a tyre black, and the centre in just a normal flat black colour as well. So they're all ready for a wash. So the only bit that needs painting is the rear landing gear wheel, which I forgot to do if I'm honest. And obviously we've also got the exhausts that need buffing up as well in a little bit. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to grab a bit of tissue, and we're going to put the Ultimate Dark Dirt wash on. So we'll pop that in there. Now, as always with UMP Dark Dirt or any of the washers, give them a good shake. White bounce has gone a bit on this camera because of the sheet. Nothing I can do about that really. Make sure you give it a good shake, and obviously, like I always say, decant it into a separate container so you don't contaminate your wash bottle, and put plenty in there because you're not going to be stingy. And you need a nice flat brush. Let's have a look what that one's been used for. That's perfect. So I've got a number 8 AK Interactive. As you can see, it's probably 2 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters, 1.5 centimeters wide. What we're going to do, obviously, we've got the gun stain on the side, which you can probably see a little bit better over here. I just adjust my light. There we go. So you see the exhaust stain on that side and that side. So they are different. They wouldn't be exactly the same. Same on the wing cannons. Different length, slightly different width. And underneath, you can see it there as well. Like I say, just the impression it's been used. Not it's a well serviced aircraft, well used. I've just got a slight exhaust stain on the side. As you can see, I've also painted the wheel wells as well. So they're ready to go. So literally all we've got left to do is the wash, matte coat, unmask the canopy and put the antenna wire on, and this thing's built, put the wheels on, etc., and it's all done. So whether we can get this done in this part, I'm not sure. I don't know if I have enough time. If not, we'll be back for a part 14, which we did plan on all the time, to get it done. So Dark Dirt wash, it's a case of popping it on all over the aircraft, so you're aiming for all the panel lines. Don't be stingy with it, just literally chuck it on. Get it everywhere you can, because you need to fill every panel line and every gap. Keep stirring your little pot that you've got your wash in, and just make sure you cover every panel line. Ready to let it all dry. We'll take it off. And I'll leave all our panel lines nicely weathered. Good excuse for getting messy and covered in stuff, because you will get covered in it. So you get all your wings. Obviously if you don't get it first time round, you can come back and add it again later. Just make sure it's in all those panel lines, and then once it's there, leave it be, and then we'll flip it over. We'll do underneath. And there's me telling you to be careful before that antenna post, and I've just got them, made it fold over. Get around your wheel wells, because obviously you want those well weathered. And there we go, we slapped it all over the aircraft, everywhere we need it. Just have a double check, turn it over, make sure you've got all the little gaps. We'll take that off for a little bit and glue it back on in a while. Like I say, just leave it to dry then. It does get everywhere, that's the idea of it. Leave that for half an hour, 40 minutes. Let it completely set. Like I said, it's water based, so whatever you get on your clothes, yourself, your work surface, it is going to come off. Then we can apply it to our landing gear as and where you think it's needed. Obviously this is the same as doing like a pin wash or what have you. And again, once they're done, put them to one side, out of harm's way. Obviously the aim again is chuck it on as much as you can, and then you just remove at the end with a cotton bud, Q-tip, depending on the world you are. And that's it. Now what we need to do now is clean our brush, or in fact we'll get a different one. We'll have a slightly smaller flat brush. We'll use, not that one, that's my dry brush one. Oh, we'll just use a little round brush, there we go. And I want some concrete now. So again, UMP concrete, this is for the tyres. As you can see, the tyres do have tread in them. So what we're going to do is put some concrete wash in. And what I'm going to do is get the froth out the top of the bottle. Shaking the bottle up, and I'm just going to get the froth. I'm just going to pop that around. Also pop in the middle as well. Both sides, front and back. Like so, and again, leave that to one side to set. Try and put it in something so it's not touching the floor, because you want the wash to set in there, not be pulled out by kitchen roll and what have you. Like I said, just by using the wash, there'll be less to remove at the end, because obviously with these are only small parts, so they don't need to be massively coated in the wash. There we go, and obviously check around, is there anything else you want to add a wash to? No, there's not, everything else is fine. So then it's a case of leave these for 20-30 minutes, come back, once they're dry, use a damp kitchen towel and remove it. I'll show you that quickly in a little bit. So we'll come back once they're dry. In the meantime, I'm going to very quickly show you about buffing these up. So this is one of the exhausts, this is the one still attached. So as you can see, it's very dull, it's a very dark grey brown colour. So all it's a case of then is I like to put a little bit of tissue on the bench to rest this on, like so. You've got a cotton bud and just start to lightly work it. You'll see it starting to come off on the cotton bud. Now if you can see that, I don't know if I can get, there you go, you can get to catch the light, it's actually gone shiny now. So same on the other side, just use the cotton bud. We've got exactly the same. Now this is where it's going to come into a turn. I need to try and keep this on the cocktail stick because it's a lot easier for me to do it this way. So in between these exhausts, so you're going to shot, I'll zoom us in a bit as well so you can see a bit better. So in between the exhausts we're just going to use the cotton bud. I'm not really pressing hard at all. And you'll see that some areas become shiny. Let's just come off the cocktail stick. Some less so than others. And what that'll give us, it'll give us a nice tonal variation on the exhaust to where the edges are shiny, as you can see, and the inner is dull. And I think that gives a real nice effect. I really love the Mr. Hobby buffable paints. So with very little work, obviously you've got the smell to put up with. You've got an ideal looking exhaust there then. So it's the same with the other one. Which is there, this one's off the stick, but exactly the same method, using your cocktail stick all over it, and you will literally go from that to that. So I think it gives a real good impression of well-worn metal, which his exhaust will be, and it gives a real good effect. Now you can go one step further. Like I said, it's only a basic guide. This isn't a full-on how to, weather exhaust. It's just a very quick basic guide on how to do it. You could come in with pigments, various rust tones, various metal tones, and you could create, a phenomenal looking exhaust. But for me, this is all about a basic build, quick how-tos on how to do bits, and for me that adds a good effect. With that and exhaust smoke, you've got quite a good looking exhaust in my opinion. But you can go the whole hog, you can do pigments, anything to add all different tonal variation. But if I put it on my hand, you can see the difference between the buffed and the unbuffed, so it does give a good effect. I really rate them for engines or anything made of metal that's well worn. I think they're really good. So there you go, so that's those done. So once this wash is dry, we'll come back and we'll get the wash off and we'll start getting some of these components on. Okay, so it's about half an hour later. All the washes have now dried, as you can see. It's made a right mess of our aircraft. So what we've got now is we've got some tissue paper which we're going to wet. I've got a bit of water to one side. I'm going to put a little splash on the workbench. Hopefully not get soaked up by that. So we want to dampen the tissue, we don't want to soak it. So I found it best to wet it and then turn it around. I'm just going to show you quickly one part and I'll move on to the wheels and landing gear and I'll do the rest off camera. Otherwise we'll be here all day. And it's a case of systematically all around the aircraft, turning your paper as often as you can. As you can see, that leaves the panel lines filled with the wash, and that gives a really good effect. So just dampen your paper from time to time, keep turning it because you don't want too much on there, and you can take off and remove as much or as little wash as you want. You can strike it backwards to add, dirt being blasted backwards on the wings like so, or you can remove it totally and have it spotless. I may leave it on the wings like that and we'll see what it looks like. I'm always in the habit of actually fully removing it, but I think today I may well see what it looks like leaving it on. So Again, fresh piece of tissue, the other side. Like so. I like to dampen it all, then turn the tissue round. We'll start to drag it backwards. Now, the idea of adding the gloss coat is to make this easier to remove. As you can see, it's 95% gone on that wing now. Now, if I was to leave it as a flat coat, it will not rub off as well. So you need to pay attention to that, because otherwise you're at a stage where it's too late to get it off, and you're literally stuck with whatever you've got left on the wing, basically. And that's it. Now, I've got this left hand wing's virtually spotless. Let's give it another little wipe. Spin that around so you get a clean side. Obviously don't be too rough, because you're going to just damage paint, or you're going to drag decals off. So we've got the left hand wing which is spotless, and the right hand wing which was wiped off and then just streaked back a little bit. So if you look here, you can see the streaking effect. Now, I'm not sure which one I actually prefer. Whether I do like it with the streaked effect, or I prefer it that little bit cleaner. But this is the choice you've got with the wash, because you can just, you know, literally wipe it all off. Like so. So that there's nothing left there except for what's in the panel lines, which is what this primarily is. It's a panel line wash. You can see how all the panel lines are now accentuated all the way around the aircraft. Looking really well. Or you can add it back in, or you can, you know, rinse under a tap, take it off totally. That's the beauty of the UMP wash. It really is a very versatile wash and works very well. So that's how we'll do it. I think we're going to go with the clean wings. I don't want to too overly weathered, because obviously it's only a basic guard, like I said. I'll come back to this in a minute off camera, and we'll take the rest of the wash off. Next up we'll do the wheel, so wheel and tyre. So cotton bud on this, just going to dampen it. You don't want it too wet, because it'll take too much of the wash out. And all we're doing is we want to leave it in the recesses of the wheel and in the tread of the tyre. So you want to get it all out of the centre, leaving it on the edges. Same on the tyre itself. I think a lot of people get confused by the wash, that you're supposed to just lob it on and leave it. You're not. The idea is to take it off and leave it in all the recessed areas, and what that does, as you can see on that tyre, that gives a real nice effect. As you can see, and again, you can add more, you can take more off, you can start again, whichever way you want to do it with the wash. It's very, very versatile. For me, I just want to get a little bit more out of that wheel, because I think it looks odd, there's a bit too much, and get it all off the top of the tyre, so we get the black and the grey contrasting together, and there we go. As you can see, it's brought up the tread lovely on the tyre and the wheel. So there's that, and then we'll do on the landing gear wheels very quickly, and then off camera I'll get the rest of it off and we'll come back. So now we want to leave in all the recesses of the legs, so just go up and down, try not to go side to side is what I'd say. And again, we want to leave all in all those little gaps and recesses. Now these haven't been cleared, it's going to be a bit more difficult to get the wash out of, but in all honesty, this would probably be one of the most heavily weathered parts in my opinion, so it doesn't do any harm. Like I say, you can tailor the wash to use it as you want. I was thinking about this today, an experiment. You could gloss coat it and then add streaks of matte, so you get different weathering effects in different places, which would be quite a good way of doing it. As you can see on this outer wheel bay, because it wasn't clear coated, the wash is sticking a bit more, but that's not a problem. Like I say, these would be heavily weathered. I'm more than happy with that. So as you can see, it's in all the gaps, all the legs, all the recesses, and that's perfect. It really is weathering at its simplest. So like I say, out of those, quickly we've got a landing leg, the wheel, was it this one? Which one have we done? That one. And the wings of the aircraft. So I'm going to do all this off camera. We'll come back once it's all done and see how it looks. Okay, so over in the spray booth, I've got all the wash off now, as you can see. So she's looking perfect. Underneath, you can see where the washers worked really well, all the riveting, panel lines, etc. The wheels, they're all on. Props separate at the minute because we're going to spray that separately because this is the way I'm holding it to spray the matte coat. So we're nearly there now. So the matte coat I'm going to use, and it's my weapon of choice, is Alclad's Clear Coat Matte. It needs a damn good shake. It's cellulose based, so it does absolutely stink, but in my opinion there's nothing better. So we're down to 12 psi in the Infinity again. Pop a bit in, we'll leave the lid open, we'll pop the spray booth back on. And again, with all the Alclad colours, just nice thin coats. Lightly misted on. It is very, very forgiving paint. It dries almost instantly. So apart from being a bit pongy, it's a really good paint to use. It does dry dead matte, literally as matte as you can imagine. It's superb stuff. I've been using it now for a couple of years. In my opinion, there's nothing better. It's still really loose, so it's fell off. So what we'll do, we'll just coat that while it's down there. They're a bit temperamental, these landing wheel covers. Paint. They're a bit temperamental, these. It's an awkward way Airfix tell you to glue them on. If you glue them on, they're quite awkward to paint, so I always try and leave them off. And that means super gluing them on at the end, which doesn't always work the best, and they do start being a little bit temperamental. I mean, an absolute pain, but that's by the by. And like I say, in my opinion, this is the best matte coat you will get because it just dries super flat. Like I say, when you go around it once, you go around it again. It's very hard paint to overspray. It is really easy to use. So there we go, there's the plane done. So we'll pop that to one side, just a prop. And we're nearly out, so we'll fill it up over there. As you see, you do use quite a bit. About £4.50 a bottle. Does last a long time though, to be fair. Like I say, in my opinion, there's nothing better at all. So we'll pop that there to dry. Have a quick look. Got one area there that looks a bit shiny, but I think it's just where, yeah, it's drying. And as you can see, if I get a bit of light, it's a real flat finish. Absolutely beautiful. So you get everywhere, all the wheels. You don't want anywhere looking odd. All the wheelbase, the guns. And there we go. So there we go, she's all done. So I'm just going to pop that back in there. I'll give this a clean and we'll go back over to the workbench and we'll have a look, see where we are. Okay, so there we go. All the canopies unmasked, as you can see. Not the perfect masking job, there's a little bit of glue inside which you can remove if you want. And I've also glued the window, the canopy in the open position, like I wanted it. So happy with that, and as you can see, paintwork's as matte can be. Now what I'm going to add is the very last touch to the build. Is we're going to add some easy line rigging, which is this stuff. It's basically an elastic thread I got this from Models Will Go. I got the heavy, which is quite a thick one. I haven't used that one yet, and I've got the fine, which I don't know if you can see it. It's stretchy, and it's a very, very fine thread. So the idea of this is we've got the antenna mast post here, and the tail one just there. We're going to string 2 pieces across from there to there, and there's a 3rd piece to go in the bottom here as well. You can see it on one of the ones I've done in the past. A little bit dusty this one, so excuse it. So as you can see, we've got them across the top, as you can see, and then there's a hole just drilled above there where this piece goes in as well. So that's it really. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do the hole in the top of the fuselage for you guys. I'm just going to do the straight across and show you very quickly how I do that. Run out of time, and I think I'm going to get this finished today. So rather than having a 10-minute video next time to show this, I'll just get it all done today. So a little bit of thin super glue, cocktail stick, tweezers, and the fine line rigging. So what we're going to do is we're going to dip the tip of the rigging in there, and we're going to touch it. I've got you on this front camera nice and zoomed in. Super glue it, touch it, just leave it there for a minute. And I'll let it dry. Now move your super glue out of the way. Well and truly out of the way. Get some scissors. I'm just going to give it a little pull, see if it stays on. If it doesn't, we'll stick it back on. And she does. So then we're going to weigh it up so it's a little bit short, which I'm going to say about there. Cut that off like so, and then because it's short, when you stretch it, it's going to keep it taut, because that's the hardest thing to do. And I know a lot of people use cotton and whatnot, but I don't think it's the best way. So now we're going to stretch that, and hopefully it'll stay attached. Keep the slack off it, on it rather. Blow on it a bit to let it dry. If it doesn't dry, dip it back in. Get a bit more on it if you need. That's better now. Right, so that's glued on there now. It took a few seconds to dry. Well, a couple of minutes actually, to be honest. A few nervous moments of holding it. So that's now glued in position, as you can see. If you can see it there behind my hand, or if I've got a bit of tissue. You can see it there, so it's glued in position across the top. Like I say, there is another one if you want to be really specific that gets drilled in the top there, but for our purposes today we're just doing this top one. Then what we've got some thicker super glue, which we've got on the side, and we're just going to add the little detail parts to this. So like a cable tie as such. All I'm doing is touching the top and bottom with the thicker super glue, and leaving it behind, let it dry, and we'll come back and add a touch more, and then we come to the rear one again, top, underneath. Make sure you don't touch anywhere you don't want your super glue. There you go, the top one's perfect there now. Get one more there. Probably a little bit too much on that back one. There we go, perfect. So if you guys can see that, if I zoom in a little bit more for you, let's see if you can see it. So there we go. So we've added 2 parts to that now. So they get the impression of having the wiring parts on the wire. I'm not sure the parts, whether they're resistors or just connectors or what. Once they're dry, you can then paint them black, and they look perfect. So there we go. So all we've got left to do is glue the propeller in position, paint those black, and that's it. The propeller literally pushes on, and there's a plastic part in the back of it that you've attached at the very beginning of the build, or I hope you did anyway. You may well have forgotten. And that's it. So I'll put those parts on, we'll come back and we'll see how she looks all finished. Well, there we go. She's all complete at last after 8 months of build now. 13 episodes. Was going to be 14, but I managed to get them all in today. I've got my memory card countdown flashing on the camera. I've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly wrap this up. So she's all done. I did add the second piece of I zoom in of easy line, as you can see just there. So drilled a small hole in the fuselage, threaded it through and just glued it to the top. I've painted these black, so as you can see they look a lot better, and everything else has been touched up as and when required. So she's looking good. It's not perfect by all means, but it was never a model to make for me to, you know, keep on the shelf and say, you know, look, I've got a few 109s as it is. It was just a test model to show you guys technique. So it's come out better than I thought it would, because I never really paid any care or attention to what I was doing. I was just trying to show you guys what I was doing. But she looks well, and that's it. So I'm glad to have it finished at last. This gives me more time to make different videos on different stuff, and more importantly put a lot more focus onto the actual step-by-step video builds now. So there's a rough idea of how I do stuff. If you've got anything else you want to know, pop it on the forum or on the comments on YouTube, and I'll try and get it done. I'll take some close-up shots, well, some shots of it for the forum and Facebook, and I'll get some pics up there for you. So Paul at ISM, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed all 13 videos. It has been a pleasure making them. I'm glad they're done, I'm not going to lie. And that's it. So I'll see you on the forum, guys. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Take care.